Okay, I'm recording right now. So here are the guitar. It's a Fender Strat, American Special Strat with modified pickups. I mean, these are not the stock pickups. These are sort of look like the Seymour Duncan Hot Rails, but it's made by a different company. But it's pretty much the same idea. And then the amp is a tube 22 watts Bugera V22 that I'm going to use for the demo. Then these are the pedals, and I'm going to do the demo for the 3 pedals. The first one, let me zoom in. This one is the EQ, 5-band EQ. Then next is the Mooer solo distortion pedal, and then last is the noise killer by Mooer. 3 more pedals that I'm going to demonstrate very quick. So what I'm going to do right now, they are on, so what I'm going to do is just point like this while I grab the guitar and then start playing and switching pickups and all that. So right now I'm going to turn them off completely, and I have the clean guitar sound going to the amp, and this is actually, I'm using the 3 pickups, but I'm going to go with my what I will use for playing blues, which is pretty much the middle pickup and the bridge pickup, both as single coils. So this is the sound of the guitar. It's not too loud. I live in an apartment, plus the whole idea is to be able to, record this with the highest quality possible, and I don't have the equipment enabled to do that. I have the equipment to do it, but then I will have to set up everything differently. But anyways, this is the sound of the guitar, clean guitar, nothing. Okay, here's the solo distortion pedal. As you can see, increase the volume, but also there's a lot of distortion. But if you're looking for a cleaner distortion, you can go, cleaner, more like an overdrive type of distortion. You can take that gain button down, so you have something like this. Obviously the volume goes down, the output, so I have to compensate, raising the level. So here it is. Now you want to have that kind of heavier distortion, for heavy metal or rock, heavy rock or something like that. You can take that gain higher, take the level down, because now it's going to be louder, and you have now notice that I'm using, as I mentioned before, the single coil options on this pickup. So if I go with humbuckers, obviously the distortion is going to be heavier. More sustained. But anyway, so that's the thing. Now it has that gain button where you control the amount of distortion, you have the level, but also you have that tone button, and then there's a little switch where you control pretty much the algorithms of, it's not digital, it's analog, but it's a way to say that you can select 3 different type of distortion. The first one is what they call natural, the second one is tight, and the third one is the what is that? I don't get to see, classic. These are just names, I guess. But anyways, you have a different type of like, it sounds like a little compressed. That's the classic option. Then the tight sounds even more compressed. And then the natural option. It sounds a little, I don't know. You will have to listen to it by yourself to to know the difference on your ears. But to me, it's like the difference is very subtle, but especially when playing lines. So I got to go back to the classic option. It sounds like a little more, I don't know, old school. Anyway, so that's the solo. If you and I'm halfway on the gain. If I go all the way up. And you have a lot of sustain, and notice that my amp volume, and I didn't point that at first, but let me do it very quick. The volume, I'm using the clean channel, and the volume is at 1. I'm not using the drive, the second channel, the lead channel. I'm just using the clean channel. So everything is pretty much coming from the distortion pedal. So there's no gain or drive coming out from the amp. So that's the distortion, and I think it's very flexible. If you work with that gain button, you don't want that much distortion. It's a little more subtle. You can do. Obviously, you have to adjust the level in order to compensate, and then going back to my middle and pickup and bridge pickup setup that I had on the guitar. A little more. So that's the solo distortion. Now I want to point out the noise killer function when you use a distortion pedal, and when you're working with high gain, and sometimes it's not just necessarily high gain type of situation or type of music when you have a lot of distortion, a lot of volume. Sometimes it's just ambience noise that occurs by the inductance of lightning and the venue that you may be playing at, because of some domestic devices that may be in the vicinity turn on, like a blender or something, and those devices make some kind of a voltage loop on the current, and then it produces some kind of noise, unwanted noise. So the function of the noise killer is to get rid of all this type of noise, either high gain devices or just interference by blenders or who knows. But the example that I'm going to play now is just the distortion maximum level. You hear that? That's the noise. If I am playing, I don't hear it, but when I'm not playing, I hear the noise, and the noise is because the high output that I have on the guitar and on the distortion. So the noise killer, what it's going to do is, when it's turned on, gets rid of that and I can play. It doesn't affect my tone or anything on the sound of the distortion or the guitar. But then when I stop playing, there's a little remain of that, you know, unwanted noise. But then as the noise killer kicks in, it completely cuts off the noise. So I think the noise killer pedal is very useful for that matter, and especially in that kind of situations where you're playing in a location where you have a lot of interference, either by lightning, you know, some places have a kind of not necessarily well designed electricity circuits, and therefore everything that is fed by their circuit is going to be running into some kind of a loop, a current loop, and then you have that noise. Blenders, and not necessarily from the same place, it can be, you know, the neighbor. But anyway, so the noise killer is going to help you to get rid of all this noise. So for now I'm going to just turn it off and go back to the solo pedal, distortion pedal. Now the EQ, so let me turn off the distortion, and once again I'm going to play the clean guitar, get a lot of tune. Now, what do you do with the EQ? And check this out. I'm not changing any setting on the guitar. I'm still on the middle pickup and the bridge pickup, and all the knobs are full, volume, tone, and then. So when I kick in the EQ, off. So there's a difference in volume, right? And it's just that the EQ you can use to either boost or cut any frequency that you may want to, you know, either make a standing and the whole sound, or something that you don't like, you want to cut it out. Like for example, the difference. And I think the EQ is very useful when you have two different guitars, like for example a Gibson type of guitar using humbuckers, humbucker pickups, and a Fender type of guitar using single coils, and then you know the difference in sound between the single coils and the humbuckers. So with an EQ like this, you can compensate when you switch guitars. You can set up to either, I mean, you can set up your amp and all your effects to work with the humbucker setup, and then use this to make your single coils to sound a little fatter, so they kind of adjust automatically to the settings of your humbuckers, or vice versa. You can set up all your effects and your amp to a single coil setup, and then when you kick in the EQ, pretty much you can make that humbucker to sound like a Strat. So it all depends on what you want to do. And or you can use the EQ to either break up the distortion. Like for example, if you see there's a little increase in gain in the volume, and especially the mid-range, it can becomes a little, you know, more brighter, but not that much, but definitely more volume. Well, what happens is when you have the distortion, actually let me turn a little bit gain down, take the EQ, so what you're doing is increasing the mid-range of the distortion via the input. So the guitar is sending a signal that has increased mid-range. So that's why you hear, and actually it increases the volume a little bit too. So let me go back here. And that's very good when you want to solo. You can use it as a boost pedal in order to increase the volume, especially to boost the mid-range. So the sound of the guitar is going to be more present in that region of the frequency spectrum, which is pretty much what you want to have, right? You know, when you're playing with the band and everything is set pretty much at a very balanced volume between the instruments, so you can hear everything. Nobody's masking anybody else. But when it's time to solo, you want your sound to stick out from the whole mix, and you do that by obviously increasing the volume, or in combination with boosting some frequencies, especially mid-range. So imagine you are playing, you know, some